The horizon is the veil that keeps that secret hidden, the line that no story can cross. It is the softest kind of terror, the unknown wrapped in silence. Yet it is not all fear. There is beauty in how it behaves. The event horizon teaches you that boundaries can be more than barriers. They can be thresholds. They can be places where perspectives diverge, where one truth and another coexist. From here, you learn that time itself is not absolute, that light is not untouchable, that even the fastest, brightest things can be slowed, dimmed, erased, and still the black hole does not take everything at once. Matter spirals toward it, heating, glowing, flaring brighter than galaxies before it fades. The horizon swallows, yes, but only after this luminous dance, this brief refusal to dim. So, even here at the edge of forever, there is radiance. Even in silence, there is music first. You may ask, what happens once something crosses? The truth is, no answer returns. Information does not escape. Matter, light, time, all are hidden beyond the veil. Some theories whisper that quantum rules preserve the story somehow, folded into the horizon itself. Others wonder if the information is destroyed, truly lost. No certainty remains, and perhaps that is why the horizon feels so dreamlike. It is not a line of knowledge, but of unknowing. It is not where answers live, but where questions deepen. In your own life, you know horizons like this. Moments where you cannot see beyond, where the future is hidden, where stepping forward feels like stepping into silence. And yet you move. You cross without seeing, because crossing is inevitable. The horizon reminds you that endings and beginnings blur. It reminds you that not knowing is part of every journey. What comforts you is this: the event horizon is not chaos. It is order. It has shape. It has law. It has beauty. It is not random swallowing, but precise geometry, precise inevitability. You are held not by accident, but by certainty. The universe writes its equations into the fabric of this silence, and those equations say, here, all paths bend inward. Here, light itself agrees to rest. When you think of it this way, the horizon is less a terror and more a lullaby. It says, come closer, slow down, stop struggling. It says, there is a place where resistance ends. It says, even the brightest flame must dim. Even the swiftest traveler must rest. And so you rest with it. You breathe with the rhythm of slowed time, of bending light. You let the silence of the horizon wash over you, not as fear, but as inevitability. It is the kind of inevitability that does not press or rush, but waits with infinite patience. Because whether now or later, all things return. And that return is neither punishment nor mercy. It is simply the way of the universe. The shadows that do not end are not meant to frighten you into wakefulness. They are meant to calm you into acceptance. They remind you that even endings are infinite, that falling does not always mean crashing, that silence is not always absence. Sometimes silence is fullness. Sometimes silence is peace. And as you drift deeper into this thought, you begin to sense what comes next. For beyond the horizon lies not just silence, but collapse. Not just shadow, but the heart of gravity itself. You are not yet there, but you feel the pull toward it, slow, steady, uncertain. There is a rhythm in the universe that never ceases. Birth follows death, and death folds into birth again. Nowhere is this rhythm more profound than in the lives of stars. You see them shining above you, glittering across the night, each one a furnace of light. They appear eternal, steady, constant. But like everything, they have lifetimes. Even suns must die. The life of a star begins with gravity's gentle gathering. Clouds of gas drift in the emptiness of space. Hydrogen and helium spread thin like whispers across the dark. Slowly, gravity draws them together. Atoms collide, pressure builds, and the heat ignites. A star is born, a new flame in the black ocean of night. For millions, even billions of years, it shines. Hydrogen becomes helium. Fusion fills the void with light. The balance holds. Gravity pulling inward, fusion pushing outward. This is the star's heartbeat, steady and strong. But balance is fragile. Eventually, hydrogen begins to run thin. The core grows heavy. Fusion falters. Gravity, patient and unyielding, begins to take back what was lent. The outward push weakens, and the inward pull takes over. The star begins to change. For smaller stars, the ending is quiet. They shed their outer layers in gentle beauty, leaving behind white dwarfs, small embers that cool over time. But for massive stars, the ending is not gentle. It is collapse, collapse. Is gravity unchained? The core can no longer support itself, and in a fraction of a second, it gives way. The heart of the star falls inward, faster than thought, faster than fire. Temperatures soar. Iron forms, the core snaps under its own weight. This is the moment of death and of birth. For the star dies here, but the black hole is born. The outer layers explode outward in a supernova, a flash so bright it can outshine an entire galaxy for days. It is the universe's most dramatic farewell, a blaze of light announcing an end. But beneath that light, in the silence after the roar, the collapsed heart remains. The star's core has fallen so far inward that nothing can halt it. It condenses, compresses, until density itself becomes unimaginable. The weight is infinite, the space is nearly none. The black hole emerges, the husk of a star turned into pure gravity. You think of it as a funeral. The star that once gave light to planets, to worlds, to space around it, is gone. What remains is a shadow, a memory of brightness, transformed into silence. It is not destruction without purpose. It is transformation, for the energy of the explosion seeds the universe. With elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, the ingredients of planets, oceans, bodies. In this way, your very breath is linked to stellar death. You are, in the deepest sense, made of collapsed hearts. A black hole is the most extreme form of collapse, but collapse itself is everywhere. A leaf falls from a tree and collapses into soil. A wave curls and collapses into the shore. Even your breath, as it leaves your body, collapses into still air. And yet, from every collapse, something continues. Something is carried onward. So too with stars. Their collapse feeds galaxies, seeds life, and creates the most mysterious objects the universe has ever known. When you hear the words black hole, you might think only of darkness, of absence. But remember, what it truly is gravity's final form. A star burns against gravity for as long as it can, but gravity always waits. When the fire fails, gravity wins, and what is left is its purest expression. A black hole is not fire, not light, not surface. It is gravity alone, perfected. This perfection is not visible. You cannot see it directly. You can only see the way. It bends the world around it. The light that swirls, the stars that orbit, the silence where brightness once lived. In this sense, a black hole is not absence, but influence. It is not nothingness, but the pure presence of collapse. There is humility in knowing that even stars so immense, so radiant, must bow to this. It teaches you that scale does not grant eternity. Even the largest, brightest things cannot escape the truth of endings. And yet, in that truth, something new begins. The star is gone, but the black hole endures. Its presence shapes galaxies, bends spacetime, fuels the brilliance of quasars. From collapse, creation emerges in a new form, you might ask. Why does gravity collapse so far? Why does it not stop, like it does in white dwarfs or neutron stars? The answer lies in mass. If a star is heavy enough, no pressure can resist its weight. Electrons cannot hold. Neutrons cannot hold. The collapse continues, inward without limit, until the concept of surface vanishes. All that remains is the singularity, a point where gravity is so intense that space-time curves infinitely inward. It is not something you can picture. Your mind cannot grasp infinity, but you can sense it. The idea of a place where depth never ends, where falling is endless, where collapse is complete. The singularity is hidden by the event horizon, veiled from sight. But knowing it is, there is enough. It is the ultimate end of the star's journey, the ultimate surrender to gravity's will. The heart that once fused atoms into fire now collapses atoms into nothingness. The brilliance of light becomes the stillness of shadow. This is the heart made of collapse. Yet there is beauty here, because the death of a star is also the birth of possibility. The iron in your blood was born in such collapses. The calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, all forged in stellar fire, scattered in stellar death. You carry in you the quiet inheritance of countless suns. And when you think of black holes, you are not only thinking of destruction, you are thinking of the process by which the universe made you. So when you hear of collapse, do not hear only sorrow, hear the rhythm that says endings are beginnings in disguise. That silence is born of song, and song will one day return to silence. You are part of that same rhythm. You, too, are made of fire and will one day rest in stillness. But even in stillness, your pieces, your atoms, will continue onward, folded into the next form, the next story, the next light. This chapter rests gently on that truth. That collapse is not final, but transitional. That a black hole is not emptiness, but the purest shape of gravity. That a heart of fire can become a heart of silence. And still the universe continues to sing through it. And as you breathe, you feel how natural this is. Collapse is not against you, is not against you. This is the accretion disk, a river of matter becoming light. It is the brightest engine the cosmos knows, born from the darkest heart the cosmos holds. It seems a contradiction, and yet here it is, terror shining as brilliance. The river is not calm, it is violent in speed, turbulent in heat, radiant beyond measure. Temperatures rise to millions of degrees. Radiation floods outward, jets of energy blasts into space. And yet, from a distance, all you see is light, soft, steady, constant. Like a lamp glowing in the night, its turbulence hidden by its radiance ton. 618, with its immense accretion disk, is one of the greatest examples. Its disk outshines entire galaxies. From billions of light years away, it appears as a quasar, a cosmic lighthouse, visible across distances too vast for stars alone to bridge. You look into the night sky, and some of the faintest points of light may not be stars at all, but black holes feeding. They're rivers of light crossing space to reach you. To drift in thought along this river is to accept paradox. You know the light is born of destruction. Matter torn apart, stretched, heated, erased. And yet, the destruction glows. The ending of one form becomes the brightness of another. The black hole consumes, but before it does, it illuminates. This is why you rest here, not only in fear, but in awe. Imagine the rhythm of it. Dust falling, circling, spiraling inward. Gas clouds colliding, pressed into heat. Fragments of stars, once steady and shining, unraveling into streams that flare brighter than their lifetimes ever allowed. Every orbit, every spiral feeds the glow. Every motion contributes to the light. It is as though the universe paints brilliance out of collapse, and so the river flows. It does not flow with water, but with particles, with plasma, with radiance. Itself, its current is made of motion and gravity, its brightness born from resistance. It flows not downward, but inward, always toward the singular darkness at the center. You could call it a river of return, for all things that enter are carried inward, pulled toward silence. But before they disappear, they shine. They shine so brightly that galaxies pale in comparison. Here, terror becomes illumination. The same force that erases also reveals. The black hole, by feeding, declares its presence with more light than the stars it consumes ever gave. It cannot hide, because its hunger glows. This is the strange justice of the universe. Even shadows cannot swallow without being seen. What you learn from this is simple. Endings, too, give light. Before silence comes, there is brilliance. Before disappearance, there is radiance. Every unraveling, every collapse, every fall inward carries with it a final glow. The jets that rise from these rivers are among the most powerful phenomena in existence. Magnetic fields twist and fling matter away from the disk, launching beams of energy thousands of light years into space. They are cosmic searchlights, announcing across the void, here is a black hole, here is hunger, here is light born from darkness. And though their violence is immense, what you see from far away is only beauty, narrow shafts of brilliance, lighthouses in the night. When you let yourself drift in this thought, you feel both fear and comfort. Fear, because the scale is beyond you; comfort, because even terror creates illumination. Even destruction writes beauty into the sky. The cosmos wastes nothing. It transforms. Your own life echoes this pattern. Moments of unraveling, of collapse, of endings, they too carry light. They too give illumination before silence. They too can be rivers that lead you inward, shining as they go. The black hole is not only a lesson in physics, it is a mirror of existence itself. The river of light around ton 618 is not eternal. It shines only as long as there is matter to feed it. When the supply lessens, when the hunger pauses, the glow dims, the quasar quiets, the lighthouse goes dark. What remains is only the black hole itself, silent, invisible, waiting. This too is part of the rhythm. Brightness followed by silence, illumination followed by rest. And so, as you rest now, you carry this rhythm into your own body. The rhythm of light and shadow, of motion and stillness, of brilliance and quiet. You breathe with it. You surrender to it. You accept that even the most terrifying forces in the universe carry within them beauty. You accept that even rivers of destruction can flow with light. The river fades eventually, swallowed into silence. But the memory of its glow lingers, and that is enough. Enough to remind you that fear and beauty are not separate. Enough to remind you that illumination is not the absence of darkness, but its companion. Enough to remind you that the cosmos is not cruel, but balanced. Time is something you trust without thinking. It flows in seconds and minutes, in breaths and heartbeats. You rely on its rhythm, steady and invisible, to guide your days. But near a black hole, this rhythm falters. The clock does not keep the same beat. Time itself bends. The deeper you drift into the gravity of a black hole, the slower your seconds become compared to those farther away. This is not imagination, not illusion. It is woven into the fabric of space-time itself. Gravity is not only a pull on matter, it is also a weight upon time. Closer to the black hole, time stretches. For you, each second feels the same, each heartbeat steady. But for an observer far away, your moments drag out, slower and slower. Your fall becomes a pause, your pause becomes an eternity. From their eyes, you never quite cross the horizon. You hover, frozen, a ghost on the edge of silence. And yet, from within, you feel no delay. Your seconds remain faithful. You move. You breathe. You cross the horizon without hesitation. Time has not abandoned you. It is only that your time and their time no longer agree. This is time dilation, but you need not hold the word. What matters is the image. Time stretching thin, like fabric pulled at the edges. From afar, you were lengthened, slowed, delayed. From within, you were unbroken. The paradox is that both are true. Consider what this means. If you circled near a black hole and then escaped, returning to a distant observer, you would discover that their world has raced ahead. While hours passed for you, centuries may have passed for them. Their time ran swiftly, while yours crept like a whisper. In this way, the black hole is not only a devourer of matter, but also a sculptor of time. The deeper the gravity, the slower the flow. At the event horizon itself, time seems to stop altogether. From the outside, nothing crosses. From the inside, everything does. It is a boundary not only of space, but of duration. A place where now fractures into many different meanings. Think of a waterfall. Upstream, the river flows evenly, steadily, every drop moving together. But as the river nears the edge, the water accelerates, stretches, breaks into mist. For those watching, the flow appears suspended, drops caught mid-air. Yet for the drop itself, the fall continues unhindered, down into the depths. This is how time behaves near the horizon, steady from within, frozen from without. It humbles you to realize that time, which feels so absolute, is not absolute at all. It bends with speed, it bends with gravity, it bends with the structure of space-time itself. Your own life is measured in heartbeats, in the slow arc of days, but those rhythms are local, not universal. Elsewhere, in the embrace of stronger gravity, the pace is different. The universe does not keep a single clock. It keeps many, all true, all relative. This bending of time is not only theory, it has been measured on Earth itself. Clocks placed on mountaintops tick faster than those at sea level. The difference is small, almost invisible, but it is real. Your time runs slightly faster the farther you are from Earth's gravity. Near a black hole, this effect becomes infinite. The same rule that slows seconds near a mountain slows centuries near a horizon. And so you rest in the paradox. You imagine yourself falling toward the black hole, your body steady, your seconds normal. Yet, to the universe outside, you stretch into eternity, fading into slowness, dissolving into a ghost of halted time. The thought is unsettling, but it is also calming, because it tells you that even endings are not sharp, but blurred. Even final moments are drawn into infinity. You might ask, if time stops for you at the horizon, does the universe continue without you? The answer depends on perspective. For you, nothing unusual happens. For them, you never arrive. Whose truth is real? Both. This is the lesson the black hole teaches. Reality itself is shaped by where you stand, by the gravity you feel, by the clock you carry. And what of the singularity within, where space-time itself folds to infinity? There, the idea of time may lose all meaning. Moments collapse, cause and effect blur, the arrow of time itself dissolves. From the outside, you cannot know. From the inside, you cannot tell. This is part of the silence that black holes keep. What comforts you is the rhythm in this bending. It is not random. It is not random. It is ordered, precise, faithful to the laws of physics. Time slows in exact proportion to gravity's strength. The universe may confuse, but it does not deceive. Even when your seconds stretch into centuries, the stretching is honest. It is the way space-time moves. So you lie here feeling your own seconds, one breath, then another. You know they pass differently in other places, under other gravities, but here they are yours. Here they are steady, and that is enough. What you carry from this is not only awe at the black hole's power, you carry also a gentler thought, that time is flexible, that pace is relative, that even something as sacred as a heartbeat can be measured differently depending on where it is heard. You live within your own rhythm, as all things do, and in that there is peace. The black hole bends time until it seems to stop, but you learn, resting here, that even stopped time is not nothing. It is a perspective, a way of seeing, a reminder that the universe holds more than one truth. And sometimes, to accept many truths at once is to find calm. Space feels flat to you. When you walk across the ground, when you gaze across a horizon, when you tilt your head upward at the stars, you imagine emptiness as a smooth expanse. It feels like a stage stretched wide, like a canvas unbroken. But space is not flat. It bends, it curves. And near a black hole, this curve becomes so extreme that it folds reality itself. Gravity, you have learned, is not only a pull, it is the shape of space-time. Einstein revealed this truth, that mass tells space how to curve, and curved space tells matter how to move. The Earth does not orbit the Sun because it is being tugged by an invisible rope. It orbits because the Sun's mass creates a bowl, a dip in space-time, and Earth rolls along that dip forever. You live not in emptiness, but in a fabric that bends with weight. A black hole is the deepest of these bowls, where a planet makes a dent, and a star makes a chasm. A black hole makes an abyss. Its gravity curves space so steeply that no path leads outward. All trajectories, all lines, all motions turn inward. This is not emptiness. It is geometry written so deep that escape vanishes. You can picture it softly, as though a cloth was stretched wide and a weight placed at its center. The heavier the weight, the deeper the cloth sinks. A black hole is not just a weight, It is collapse without end, a well that deepens infinitely. The cloth folds so steeply that what falls in cannot climb back out. From outside, you see a pit, with no bottom, a curve with no end. This geometry is not abstract. It shapes the orbits of stars, the flow of gas, the bending of light. Photons that would travel straight bend around the hole, caught in its curve. Some circle, looping endlessly in what is called the photon sphere, an orbit made of light. Others skim the edge, their paths warped into spirals before they break free. The geometry of a black hole does not merely contain, it redirects, it reshapes, it writes new patterns into reality. The event horizon marks the place where even these curved paths cannot return. Inside, space itself is drawn inward. You cannot think of it as falling into a place. You must think of it as falling into a direction that does not exist for you anywhere else. It is not down, not forward, not inward as you understand. It is into the curve itself, into the fabric folded so sharply that all dimensions lead to the center. In this way, a black hole is not a thing, but a place in geometry. It is the shape of space-time taken to its most extreme. It is a curve made so deep that it becomes an abyss. And yet, there is elegance in this shape. It is precise. Mathematics describes it with clarity, even if your mind cannot fully picture it. Equations trace the slope, the depth, the horizon, and those equations whisper softly, "This is not chaos, but order. This is not mystery, but structure." Even the abyss is drawn with lines that make sense. The geometry also explains the calm inevitability of falling. A star that drifts too close is not yanked in, it slides. It follows the curve, the natural path of space-time. Its fall is not a violation, but a fulfillment. This is why the abyss feels so patient. It does not seize. It allows. It simply waits. Its geometry unchanging, its shape eternal. You live in geometry too. Every step you take is guided by the curvature of Earth's gravity. Every orbit of your planet around the sun is the rolling of mass along a curve in space-time. The black hole is only the extreme version of the same truth. It shows you what happens when the curve deepens beyond imagining. It shows you the far edge of a rule you already know. Think of the photon sphere once more. Light, the fastest traveler, usually ignores gravity's hand. But here, even it must bend. At just the right distance, photons orbit the black hole endlessly, circling without escape, without return. They are trapped not by walls, but by the curve itself. They ride the geometry forever. It is a delicate balance, a knife edge of existence, where light is neither free nor consumed, a ring of brightness tracing the abyss. This ring is what allows black holes to be seen at all. When astronomers captured the first image of a black hole, it was not the hole they saw. It was the glow of matter circling the abyss, the photons, bent into rings by the curved fabric of space. The geometry revealed itself in light. Absence revealed itself in presence. The abyss drew its outline not in shadow, but in glow. And you, resting in this thought, realize again how beauty hides in terror. The shape of the abyss is frightening in its finality, its inevitability, but the very same shape bends light into rings, stars into orbits, galaxies into spirals. The geometry of the abyss is not destruction alone. It is also creation, also pattern, also form. The deeper truth is this: space is not a backdrop. It is active, alive, changing with every mass. It holds. It is not the stage, but the script. And black holes are the most dramatic lines in that script, the sharpest curves in that geometry. You rest in the thought that reality itself is flexible, that space is not rigid, but soft, that time is not absolute, but pliable, that existence itself is a fabric, and you live upon its folds. This is what the black hole reminds you, that the abyss is not emptiness, it is shape, it is curve. It is geometry so deep it becomes silence. And as you let this settle, your breathing slows. Because to know that even the abyss has structure is to feel comfort. To know that even the deepest shadow follows rules is to feel peace. You are not adrift in chaos. You are resting in geometry. And geometry, even when terrifying, is steady. There are lights in the universe so distant, so faint to the eye, that you might mistake them for stars. But they are not stars. They are not even galaxies, though their brilliance outshines whole swirls of starlight. They are quasars, lighthouses, built not of calm oceans, but of ravenous shadows. A quasar begins with a black hole, but not an ordinary one. It begins with a black hole so massive, so hungry, that its feeding lights the cosmos. Gas and dust spiral inward, colliding, heating, glowing. The accretion disk blazes so fiercely that it outshines every star in the host galaxy combined. You are left with a paradox. The darkest centers of galaxies giving rise to the brightest lights in the universe. From across billions of light years, their beams reach you. The light that enters your eye tonight may have left when the first galaxies were still forming, when the universe itself was young. Quasars are ancient lighthouses, their glow carrying stories from epochs long before Earth existed. They remind you that to look into the night sky is always to look backward in time. What makes them so luminous is not the black hole itself, but the process of feeding. The faster matter falls, the brighter it becomes. Friction grinds, energy releases, and the swirling disk radiates with power unimaginable. Sometimes, magnetic fields twist, launching jets of radiation thousands of light years long, narrow beams of brilliance piercing the dark. Two distant eyes, these beams look like a star, yet they are brighter than galaxies, brighter than trillions of suns. You might think of them as warnings, signals flashing across the void, saying, "Here lies a monster, devouring, shining through its hunger." But they are not warnings in intent. They are inevitability. They shine because they must, because energy cannot vanish, because the universe transforms falling matter into light. The lighthouse does not warn ships deliberately. It simply shines because that is its nature. There is something haunting in the idea that the most violent processes give rise to the most beautiful radiance. A star dies, a black hole forms, the black hole feeds, and suddenly a beacon blazes so far that it crosses the width of the universe. Even terror carries beauty. Even hunger produces brilliance. The cosmos does not separate the two. When you let your mind drift along these beams, you realize how immense their journeys are. Some of the light has been traveling for more than 12 billion years. It has crossed, expanding space, stretched into red wavelengths by the growth of the cosmos itself. And yet, it still reaches you. What began as radiation from a feeding black hole in the early universe is now a faint shimmer in your telescope, a whisper from the beginning of time. This is why quasars matter. They are not only beacons of light, they are also fossils of history, carrying with them information about the young universe. They tell you how galaxies formed, how black holes grew, how matter behaved when everything was closer, denser, more raw. To study them is to study memory written in light, and so, in their brilliance, you see both present and past. They are bright in your night sky, but they are also windows to the deep beginning of things. Every photon carries with it a record of what once was, a moment preserved across billions of years. They are messengers from an age before Earth was born, before the sun burned, before oceans formed. Resting in this thought, you find calm, because the universe does not forget. Even in the violence of collapse, even in the chaos of feeding light, is created, and that light is carried forward, endlessly, patiently, until it reaches you. You are part of the audience for the oldest performance, the longest story told. The scale of quasars is difficult to hold, but you do not need numbers. You need only the sense of contrast. The darkest engine producing the brightest beam, the hungriest monster lighting the most distant galaxies. It is paradox, but it is also balance. It tells you that extremes are not separate, but joined. That light and dark are woven together, always. If you drift deeper into the thought, you might imagine your own life in this pattern. Hunger producing growth, struggle producing strength, endings producing beginnings. What seems like collapse often hides illumination. The black hole, terrifying as it is, creates quasars' lights that guide even across billions of years. Perhaps you, too, shine most brightly when you are being transformed. This is why astronomers call quasars lighthouses, not because they are gentle, but because they are visible, because they cut through distance, because they guide the eye across the dark. A lighthouse is most useful in storm, most necessary when seas are violent. So too are quasars most visible when galaxies are turbulent, when black holes are feeding. Their light is born of storm, but to you it appears only as brilliance. And so you rest in their paradox. You accept that fear and beauty can be the same, that hunger and radiance can coexist, that darkness can give rise to light. The universe does not ask you to choose between them. It shows you both, side by side, and calls them one. The quasars will not shine forever. As galaxies age, as matter is consumed or dispersed, the feeding slows, the lighthouses dim. One by one, they fall silent, but their beams have already crossed the cosmos. Even after they fade, their light will keep traveling, carrying their brilliance far beyond their lifetimes. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson. Even when the source is gone, the light remains. Even when the fire has burned out, its glow endures. You, too, will leave behind traces of your own light. Not quasars, not beams across galaxies, but gestures, words, kindnesses, quiet impacts that ripple outward. The universe tells you this through quasars. What you give does not vanish. It travels, it continues. It becomes part of someone else's sky. And so, with this thought, you drift into calm. Quasars are not only lighthouses of terror. They are reminders of connection, of persistence, of light that carries long after the darkness has passed. You rest in their glow, ancient and endless. You rest knowing that the universe itself shines brightest through its hungriest shadows. There is a place where stories stop, not because they finish, but because they cannot be told. Beyond the event horizon, the black hole draws everything. Inward, not only matter, not only light, but the very possibility of memory. Silence here is not quiet in the way you know it. It is silence, absolute silence that keeps secrets forever. You have walked toward this edge slowly, chapter by chapter, circling closer to its mystery. Now you are at the boundary itself. The event horizon stretches before you, not as a surface to touch, but as a veil you cannot see. It is a line drawn not in space, but in destiny. Once crossed, no signal, no word, no photon of light can return. What does it mean to stand before such silence? It means that the universe has a place where narrative ends, a place where even if you continued, the world outside would never know what became of you. It is a strange comfort and a strange terror at once. From the outside, you appear to hover forever at the brink. Time slows, light dims, you fade into stillness. Your story is suspended at the edge, never quite concluding. For the observer, you are frozen, half fallen, forever silent. But from your perspective, there is no pause. You cross without notice. Your time continues normally. The horizon is not a wall to you, but a threshold. You pass into silence without realizing that silence has begun. And that is where the paradox lives. On one side, you exist, moving, breathing, thinking. On the other, you are a frozen image, a ghost locked at the edge. Both truths are real. Both are part of the horizon's geometry. This is why black holes feel so dreamlike. They split reality into different stories, each one complete, each one unreachable from the other. Inside, what happens is hidden. Matter falls inward, drawn toward the singularity. Light itself bends without return. The outside universe never knows. Information is cut away, stored or lost, locked beyond recovery. This is the silence of the horizon, not only the absence of sound, but the absence of communication, of continuation, of story itself. You might wonder, then, does nothingness feel like rest? If your voice cannot escape, if your moments cannot be shared, what becomes of experience? Perhaps the answer is not absence, but solitude. A silence so deep it holds you completely, as though wrapped in the folds of spacetime itself. Not noise, not even quiet, but a stillness beyond both. It is natural to feel unease at this thought. You live your life surrounded by exchange. Your breath exchanges with air. Your body exchanges with earth. Your thoughts exchange with others. The horizon denies exchange. It accepts everything, but returns nothing. In this way, it is not cruel, only final. It is the ultimate rest, the ultimate keeping. Scientists wonder what truly becomes of the information that falls inside. Do the details of what you vanish completely? Or are they written somehow on the horizon itself, encoded in ways you cannot yet understand? This is the puzzle called the information paradox, the question of whether black holes destroy the record of reality, or whether reality is stored in hidden form. The answer is not yet known, and perhaps it will never be. Perhaps that is the essence of the horizon, a question with no reply. But you do not need an answer to feel its weight. You only need to rest in the thought that the horizon is not emptiness. It is a boundary between knowable and unknowable, between story and silence. It reminds you that not everything can be carried forward, not everything can be told. Some things belong only to the deep. And is this not true of your life as well? Not every thought is spoken. Not every memory is shared. Some remain within you, silent, unseen, locked away. You too carry horizons, inner boundaries where words cannot reach. The black hole simply makes this truth cosmic, turning the private into the universal. There is beauty in this recognition, because it tells you that silence does not mean nothing. It means keeping. It means holding. It means rest so deep that no ripple escapes. The event horizon is not only an end, it is also a cradle of secrecy. It gathers without returning, like night gathering dreams. You might picture matter crossing the edge, stretching into threads of light, then slipping past into invisibility. From the outside, it fades. From the inside, it continues. Two truths, separated by silence. This, too, is a form of gentleness. The horizon does not destroy violently. It erases softly by concealment. It turns brightness into memory, and memory into stillness. The silence beyond the horizon is unlike any silence you know. It is not the pause between heartbeats, nor the hush of sleep, nor the absence of sound in a quiet room. It is the absence of return, a silence where signals do not travel back, where echoes do not exist. It is a one-way path. Once crossed, the story continues inward, but never outward. And in this, you find calm, because the universe itself holds places where stories end not, with a bang, but with stillness. Places where the act of keeping is more powerful than the act of giving. Places where mystery is preserved forever. You breathe with this thought. You let it wash over you. You realize that not knowing can be as soothing as knowing. That silence can cradle you as surely as sound. That the event horizon is less a terror, and more a reminder that some edges are meant never to be crossed, except inward alone. Perhaps nothingness does feel like rest. Perhaps beyond the horizon there is no fear, only surrender. Perhaps the silence is not emptiness, but completion. Not absence, but fullness beyond expression. And so you drift, softly, into that image, of crossing a line unseen, of leaving stories behind, of entering silence so vast it holds even memory still. You drift not into fear, but into calm, because if the universe itself can hold silence this deep, then silence cannot be wrong. There is a quiet paradox in the universe. The heaviest things are the hardest to see. You are used to thinking of weight as something obvious, something visible, something you can point to. A mountain towering on the horizon, a star blazing in the night. But black holes do not shine. They cannot be observed directly. They reveal themselves only through what they do to others. You cannot look at one and say, there it is. You can only notice the stars around it, circling strangely, whipping through space with impossible speed. You can only notice the gas drawn inward, heated to brightness before vanishing. You can only trace the absence, the missing light, the hidden center, the silence where something vast must dwell. This is the weight of invisibility. It is not absence, but hiddenness. It is presence so complete it erases its own reflection. It is gravity so strong it swallows even the light that would betray it. Think of the stars near the heart of the Milky Way. Astronomers have watched them carefully, year after year, their orbits traced across time. They whirl at incredible speeds, faster than anything so close to Earth could ever move. Their paths loop around a point of darkness. Nothing can be seen at that point. And yet, the stars tell the truth. There is something there. 4 million suns worth of mass, crammed into silence. Sagittarius A*, hidden but undeniable. This is how you know a black hole. Not by its light, but by its influence. Not by its appearance, but by its weight. It teaches you that invisibility does not mean non-existence. It means a different kind of presence, one that moves others, one that shapes reality without showing itself. Galaxies, too, are shaped this way. Supermassive black holes, at their centers, guide the motions of stars, anchor the spiral arms, fuel the brilliance of quasars. From afar, you see the galaxy as luminous and beautiful, but beneath that beauty lies an invisible core. Without it, the pattern would unravel. Without it, the spiral would lose its grace. The unseen holds the visible in place. You live in a universe where most of what exists is unseen. Dark matter outweighs stars and planets, holding galaxies together with its mysterious gravity. Dark energy pushes the universe to expand faster and faster, invisible yet relentless. And black holes, though tiny compared to galaxies, shape their centers with their hidden mass. The majority of reality is invisible, and yet it is what gives form to everything you see. This should not surprise you in your own life. Too, the unseen shapes the scene. Thoughts you do not speak guide the words you do. Feelings you do not show bend the course of your choices. The unseen gravity of memory pulls you towards some places, away from others. Absence, too, is a kind of presence, and sometimes the heaviest parts of your being are the ones no one else can see. Astronomers searching for black holes often look for the dance. A visible star moving in orbit around an invisible partner. The star's light wobbles, shifts, betrays the presence of something it circles. The black hole itself does not shine, but the dance reveals its weight. Motion is the signature of the unseen, and isn't this true in every scale? The invisible wind shows itself in the swaying of branches. Gravity shows itself in the fall of an apple. The pulse of the earth shows itself in the rhythm of tides. You do not see the forces directly. You see their echoes, their motions, their effects. So too with the abyss. The black hole does not appear, but its dance is undeniable. Its pull is etched into the paths of stars, the spirals of galaxies, the flare of X-rays from gas consumed. It is weight without face, mass without form, a hidden heart shaping everything around it. To rest in this thought is to accept that the universe does not need to show itself fully. It is enough that it works, that it holds, that it shapes. You do not need to see everything to know it is there. Sometimes trust is built not from visibility, but from effect. You feel the pull, and that is proof. Consider how heavy these invisible weights are. A black hole, millions or billions of times the mass of the sun, vanishing into shadow. And yet, by its pull, whole galaxies bow. Its weight holds structure together. Its invisibility is not weakness, but depth. It is so complete, so absolute, that it erases even the very light that might betray it. Invisibility, here, is power. You may find comfort in this, because it tells you that not all strength is loud, not all presence is visible, not all truths announce themselves with brightness. Some truths are silent, some are unseen, and yet they hold everything together. The black hole is not alone in this lesson. The universe whispers it everywhere. The dark sky between stars makes the stars themselves visible. The silence between notes gives music its shape. The spaces between words let meaning breathe. Absence is never only absence. It is the hidden frame around presence. When you look into the sky, most of the universe you cannot see. The light of stars is but a fraction of what exists. The rest is dark, but not empty. The rest is weight, silent but strong. The rest is the geometry of the unseen. This is what the black hole embodies, the weight of invisibility. It tells you that the unseen may shape more than the seen, that the strongest presence may leave no direct trace, that silence itself can be heavier than sound, And so you breathe, slowly, letting this truth fold into you. You rest in the knowledge that invisibility does not mean nothing. It means everything moving differently because of what is hidden. It means presence measured by effect, not by image. It means weight without sight. The black hole does not need to show itself to be real. It bends space, slows time, moves stars. It shapes galaxies, fuels quasars, sculpts the cosmos. It is invisible, but undeniable. It is unseen, but essential. It is hidden, but heavy beyond measure. You too carry invisible weight. The things you think but do not say. The things you feel but do not show. The ways you move others without realizing the quiet influence of your presence. The universe reminds you that this, too, is real. That invisibility does not lessen weight. That hiddenness does not erase truth. And as you close your eyes, you feel this lesson soften you. You do not need to see everything to trust it is there. You do not need to shine to have weight. You do not need to be visible to matter. You are part of the same geometry, the geometry of presence unseen, the gravity of silence, the weight of invisibility. There is a strange comfort in knowing that nothing lasts forever. Not the brightest star, not the tallest mountain, not even the darkest abyss. The universe whispers this lesson in many forms. Everything changes, everything flows, everything eventually dissolves. And so, even the black hole, that ultimate symbol of permanence and power, must one day fade. For so long, black holes were thought eternal. They consumed without end, swallowing stars, dust, and even light itself. They seemed like final chapters, like punctuation marks in the story of the cosmos. But then came a quieter truth, revealed not by the violence of their hunger, but by the mathematics of the smallest scales. A truth first whispered by Stephen Hawking. Black holes, too, must die. You learn that the universe is not silent at its edges. Even in the emptiest vacuum, space is restless. Particles flicker in and out of existence, pairs born together from nothing, only to vanish again. They are brief sparks, like fireflies in the darkness of quantum fields. Usually, they appear and disappear too quickly to be noticed. But at the edge of a black hole, something subtle changes. If one of these twin sparks falls into the abyss while the other escapes, the balance is broken. The escaping particle carries away a tiny breath of the black hole's energy. The one that fell inward leaves the hole just a little lighter. And so, over vast, unimaginable spans of time, the black hole evaporates. Not with an explosion, but with a whisper. This is Hawking radiation, the faintest sigh of entropy at the edge of darkness. It is astonishing to think the brightest light in the universe can be born from the darkest place. A black hole that once devoured suns must now release its own essence into the cosmos, not in fury, but in patience, not in violence, but in a gentle giving back. The monster becomes mortal. The eternal finds its end. Entropy is the law that drives this fading. It is the quiet tide that moves everything from order to disorder, from structure to spread, from flame to ash. You feel it in the cooling of tea, the crumbling of stone, the settling of memory. Entropy is not sudden. It is the drift of time, the dissolving of patterns, the soft scattering of energy into wider and wider spaces. Black holes, though fierce, are not exempt. They, too, must obey the slow spread of entropy. The paradox is gentle. What once consumed, everything must itself be consumed, not by another, but by time. A stellar black hole, the remnant of a collapsed star, takes longer than the age of the universe to evaporate. Trillions upon trillions of years may pass before it finishes its fading. A supermassive black hole, billions of times heavier than the sun, will last far longer still. And yet, the end is written. The whisper is always there. Even terror cannot outlast time. Hawking's insight transformed how you think of the abyss. It is no longer a place of eternal imprisonment. It is a stage in a longer process, another chapter in the flow of entropy. The black hole may trap light, may slow time, may hold galaxies together, but it cannot escape the law of endings. Even its silence will be silenced. Picture this slow undoing. At first, the black hole is massive, swallowing stars, bending space, sculpting galaxies. Its gravity rules, but slowly, imperceptibly, its edge begins to glow with faint radiation. The glow is softer than starlight, weaker than any candle, yet persistent. Each particle that escapes carries away a fraction of its weight. It shrinks, it cools, it releases what it once hoarded. In the far future, when galaxies have grown cold and stars no longer shine, black holes will remain as some of the last structures. They will drift through the darkness, silent, heavy, ancient. But even then, their whispers continue. They will fade, slowly, until they vanish. The last light in the universe may not be from a star, but from the faint radiation of a dying black hole, releasing its final breath into silence. What feels terrifying in the present becomes tender in the future. The black hole's hunger is not eternal, its power is not infinite. Its silence ends not in a roar, but in a quiet surrender. It does not escape the law of endings, it bows to it. And this, somehow, is soothing, because you, too, are part of entropy's flow. Your days expand, your moments scatter, your body changes, your thoughts drift. Nothing you know remains forever unchanged. And yet, there is peace in knowing that endings are not always violent. Sometimes, endings are whispers. Sometimes, endings are release. Sometimes, even the heaviest burdens dissolve softly. Hawking. Radiation teaches you to see time differently. It reminds you that permanence is an illusion, even for the strongest. It shows you that endings can take longer than imagination itself, stretching into spans of time where even galaxies have disappeared. It tells you that all stories, even the ones written in the geometry of spacetime, close gently. And it leaves you with the thought that silence, in the end, is the most patient teacher. In the rhythm of entropy, you sense a lullaby. It is the same rhythm that turns stars into dust, that spreads warmth across cold air, that carries energy outward until it is thin and even. It is the same rhythm that erodes cliffs, that softens waves, that draws galaxies apart. The same rhythm that will, in time, whisper the black hole into nothingness. The universe, it seems, does not end things with a crash, but with a deep exhale. And so you rest in this thought. The abyss itself is not endless. It is only a pause, a heavy silence waiting to fade. Even the strongest collapse, the darkest void, the most absolute horizon, all of it drifts into stillness. The black hole does not escape this truth. It surrenders to it, particle by particle, whisper by whisper. The whisper is faint, but it carries across eternity. It says, even terror fades. It says, even the darkest engines of the cosmos dissolve into silence. It says, endings are not erasures, but transformations. A black hole is not destroyed. It becomes light again, dispersed into the wider fabric of space. Its death is its giving back. You breathe with this rhythm. You let it soften you. The thought of impermanence no longer feels heavy, but light. You are part of a universe where everything changes, where even darkness blooms into brightness before it fades. You are part of a universe where endings are not sudden, but slow, where silence has weight, and weight itself becomes whisper. Rest in the knowledge that nothing, not even terror, lasts forever. Rest in the thought that entropy is not cruelty, but release. Rest in the gentle truth that endings are as natural as beginnings. And in that rest, you hear the faint echo of the black hole's final gift, the quiet glow of its fading, the whisper of its surrender. Terror is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is a teacher. Sometimes the very thing that frightens you is what deepens your sense of wonder. And in the quiet weight of reflection, you begin to see that terror and beauty are not opposites, but threads woven into the same fabric. You think of black holes, those cosmic abysses that first seemed to be nightmares, made real. They crush stars, swallow light, distort space, and silence time. They are so absolute in their gravity that nothing can escape. At first glance, they seem to embody destruction, the raw cruelty of the universe. And yet, as you linger with them, you notice something softer. From their hunger comes structure. Galaxies are held together in their embrace. Stars orbit them in fragile dances, bound but not destroyed. Quasars shine from their edges, illuminating the cosmos with ancient light. And in their eventual fading through Hawking's quiet radiation, they show you that even terror surrenders to time. From destruction comes creation. From silence comes song. From the darkest places comes light. The lesson of Ton 618, the colossal black hole whose mass humbles your imagination, is not simply that the universe can be terrifying. It is that the terrifying is inseparable from the beautiful. The very force that could consume millions of suns is also the force that sculpts galaxies, seeds stars, and shapes the sky you know. Without these monsters, there would be no balance, no structure, no cosmic stage on which light can perform. Their terror is part of the harmony. You breathe with this thought that fear itself can be awe. When you stare into the black hole, what shakes you is not just dread, but the recognition of something greater than yourself, something that dwarfs you, but also includes you. You are made of atoms, forged in stars, but you are also part of the balance that black holes maintain. There, gravity sculpts the space you inhabit. Their hunger defines the edges of galaxies. Their silence teaches you the weight of stillness. The fear is real, but it does not need to be an enemy. It is a reminder of your scale in the cosmos. It is a humbling that leads to reverence. It is an opening, not a closing. Think of the paradoxes. They are invisible, yet define visible structure. They are silent, yet roar with light at their edges. They consume, yet eventually give back. They terrify, yet teach. In their contradictions, you find a mirror for existence itself. Your life, too, is woven from opposites. You are fragile, and yet you endure. You are small, and yet you carry the universe in your mind. You know fear, and yet you also know love. The same cloth holds both. The same thread weaves dark and light together. The black hole does not comfort you by removing terror. It comforts you by showing that terror belongs. It belongs in the same universe as beauty. It belongs in the same story as awe. It belongs because it teaches. You learn that the universe is not here to reassure you, nor to destroy you. It is here vast and indifferent, and within its vastness you find meaning, you find meaning. The scale of ton 618, the immensity of its hunger, does not erase you. It enlarges your perspective. It reminds you that you are not separate from this story, but folded into it. The black hole's lesson is not to fear less, but to see more. To understand that your fear of the unknown is also your invitation to wonder. To realize that awe grows from the same soil as dread. And to see that the more the universe humbles you, the more it welcomes you into its mystery. There is beauty in surrendering to this truth. You do not need to master the cosmos. You do not need to solve its riddles. You only need to sit with its immensity, to let the terror dissolve into reverence, to let awe carry you like a tide. The black hole whispers that even in silence, you are part of the song. You rest with the thought that terror sharpens wonder. If the universe was small, if it was simple, if it were gentle, there would be no awe. It is the immensity, the danger, the unknowable depths that give rise to reverence. It is the abyss that makes the stars brighter. It is the threat of silence that makes the sound of existence more tender. It is the shadow of destruction that makes creation so miraculous. The black hole, then, is not simply a monster. It is a teacher. It teaches you humility by showing you what lies beyond comprehension. It teaches you patience by unfolding across timescales longer than imagination. It teaches you acceptance by reminding you that everything, even terror, fades. It teaches you awe by holding light and darkness in one embrace. The lesson of ton 618 becomes the lesson of yourself. You realize that in your own life, fear and beauty are also woven together. That the moments of greatest uncertainty can become the moments of greatest discovery. That the edges of your own understanding, where silence begins, are also the places where awe grows. That in fear you find wonder, and in wonder you find rest. The universe does not need to be kind to be meaningful. It does not need to be safe to be beautiful. It is enough that it exists. It is enough that you exist within it. And it is enough that terror itself can transform into awe. You breathe slower now. You let this thought settle. The cosmos does not soothe by erasing its darkness, but by showing you that darkness belongs. The terror of black holes, the immensity of ton 618, the silence beyond horizons, all of it is part of the same fabric that weaves galaxies and stars, atoms and thoughts, beginnings and endings. You belong to that fabric too. The final whisper is this: the universe is both cruel and kind, vast and intimate, terrifying and beautiful. It holds everything, even your fear, and in holding it, it turns it into awe. The abyss you once dreaded is the same abyss that teaches you to rest in wonder. There are truths that do not roar. They do not announce themselves with lightning or thunder. They do not rise with banners or with fire. They rest, silent and inevitable, shaping the universe from a place of quiet authority. A black hole is one of those truths. You do not meet it with noise. You meet it with a pause, a stillness deep inside your body, like the breath you take before surrender. The very thought of it carries both fear and calm, the paradox of being drawn into silence by something that erases sound itself. Gravity is the familiar hand you live with every moment. It keeps your feet upon the earth, holds the oceans in their basins, tucks the air around you like a blanket. Yet here, gravity is something else entirely. It is not just the gentle embrace, you know, but a deeper, darker hunger. A hunger so strong that even light, the swiftest traveler you can imagine, cannot escape once it crosses the threshold. This is not the violence of destruction. It is not chaos or storm. It is quiet, and that quiet is what unsettles you. A black hole does not chase. It does not strike. It waits. It bends everything around it until the only choice is to fall inward. You may feel fear here, but fear softened into reverence, because this is not the kind of terror that makes you run. This is the kind that roots you in place, makes you stare into something so vast and unyielding that you forget yourself for a moment. The quiet gravity of fear does not shout. It whispers. Everything returns home. Think of the word collapse. It means folding, sinking, giving way under weight. A black hole begins as collapse, a star that has burned too long, spent its fuel, and finally succumbed to its own gravity. Once bright, once radiant, it shrinks into darkness, and then into something stranger still, a place where gravity deepens without end. You try to picture it, but words resist. There is no surface to touch, no outline to hold. It is absence, and yet it is more real than anything you can see. A circle where light vanishes, where time itself bends inward, where matter is swallowed into silence. The mind reaches for metaphors, a trapdoor, a whirlpool, a mouth in the sky, yet none are enough, because here you are not looking at emptiness. You are looking at inevitability, and inevitability is heavy. It pulls on your thoughts the way it pulls on stars. It reminds you that no matter how far you travel, how much light surrounds you, there is always something deeper, darker, more patient, waiting at the edges. But is this truly terror, or is it something else? There is, inside the fear, a strange comfort. Because to fall into a black hole is not to be scattered by chaos. It is to be folded into order. The order of gravity's will. The order of collapse. The order of silence, here. Fear is not a scream. It is a settling, like dust after fire, like the hush after a storm has passed. You may tremble at the thought, but the trembling is quiet. The kind that comes when you stand before something vast, knowing you are small, but also knowing you belong to the same universe that makes such things possible. Black holes are not rare monsters. They are woven into the fabric of galaxies. Some are the remnants of stars no larger than your own sun, collapsed into shadows no bigger than a city. Others are giants, sitting at the hearts of galaxies, millions to billions of times heavier than the sun. They hold entire swirls of stars in their gravity, and galaxies themselves bend to their invisible presence. The universe writes itself with light, but it also writes with shadow, and black holes are its punctuation, the pauses, the endings, the silences between bursts of brightness dot in your body. 2. There is gravity. You feel it in the tug of your chest as you breathe. You feel it in the weight of your bones, in the heaviness of sleep. When you close your eyes, gravity is what reminds you of where you are, where you fall, where you rest. And so, in some way, you already know what it means. To be drawn inward, to be pulled into stillness, to feel the inevitability of rest. Perhaps this is why the thought of black holes carries such deep calm alongside its fear. Because to fall into one is to be released from motion, from escape, from resistance. The universe itself gives up the struggle and yields to silence. And when you imagine it, part of you yields too. The quiet gravity of fear is not only about black holes. It is also about the way your mind responds to vastness. When you think of something beyond scale, something that exceeds numbers and language, your body grows still, your heart slows, your breathing deepens. This is awe, and awe is the twin of fear. You feel both, and they are indistinguishable here. Under the weight of silence, scientists once wondered if black holes could even exist. The equations said they should, but the mind resisted. How could something so absolute, so final, be part of a universe that feels alive and changing? Yet evidence gathered slowly, gently, like starlight crossing millions of years, and in time the truth was undeniable. These objects were not just theory, they were here, they were many, and some of them were terrifyingly large. Still, they are. Not violence in the way you might expect. They are not destruction in the sense of chaos. A black hole does not rip apart the universe, it simply reshapes it. Stars dance around their pull. Gas swirls and heats, creating light brighter than 1,000,000,000,000 suns before slipping into silence. Galaxies themselves find structure in their presence. What seems like terror is also order. What seems like erasure is also creation, written in the language of gravity. And so, when you think of them, you feel both. You feel the quiet fear of erasure, of losing the boundaries of yourself. And you feel the strange calm of belonging to something larger, of being folded into a pattern that does not need you, but includes you all the same. Your fear softens when you linger here long enough. It becomes reverence. It becomes surrender. It becomes the kind of rest that only comes when you stop fighting gravity and allow yourself to be held. This is the quiet gravity of fear. Not the panic that scatters, but the hush that gathers. Not the scream of running, but the silence of arriving. It is the first step into the dark wonder of black holes, the beginning of your slow journey into the most terrifying one we have ever discovered. And as you lie here, breathing, you sense the pull. Not danger, not doom, but inevitability. And inevitability has always been the calmest force of all. There are edges in the universe that do not behave like edges. Most boundaries separate one thing from another. The shore from the sea, the sky from the ground, the waking from the dream. But the event horizon is not such a boundary. It does not divide here from there in the way your hands divide air. It is softer, stranger. It is the shadow that does not end. You call it a horizon because it looks like a limit, a curve in spacetime, a circle where light itself cannot return. But unlike the horizon you see at Earth's edge, this one does not recede when you move closer. It stays, fixed and eternal, holding its place in the fabric of the cosmos. It is not distance that defines it, but destiny. The event horizon is not a surface. It has no texture, no skin, no matter. It is pure geometry, a line of inevitability written into spacetime. Here, even the fastest traveler, light itself, cannot escape once it crosses. Here, the universe bends back upon itself so completely that paths no longer lead outward. Every direction points inward. Every road falls home, and yet, from the outside, you cannot touch it. You cannot see it directly, except as an absence, a place where light fails. It is not a wall you crash against, but a silence you slip into. A silence so complete that nothing inside can ever speak again. Think of it as a horizon of time as much as of space. Approaching it, your clock slows in the eyes of anyone watching from afar. Seconds stretch into hours, hours into centuries. If someone could watch you fall, they would see you approach the edge endlessly, never crossing, frozen at the brink. For them, you become a shadow suspended forever. But for you, time moves as it always does. Your heartbeat still marks seconds. Your breath still rises and falls. You pass the horizon without pause, slipping through the silence unnoticed. This paradox is the essence of the event horizon. It is not an ending in the way you think of endings. It is both a limit and a passage, a place where one perspective sees forever and another sees only a moment. In this way, it is a reminder: endings are rarely absolute. They are different depending on where you stand. Light itself bends here. The closer a photon moves toward the horizon, the harder it becomes for it to climb away. Its frequency stretches, its color reddens until it disappears altogether. This is called gravitational redshift, but you do not need the word. You only need the image. A bright note sinking into lower and lower tones until silence swallows it whole. It is as if the universe itself hums lower when it nears the edge, falling from song into hush, and you, if you drifted close enough, would feel stretched as well, not only in your body, but in your time. Your moments elongate, drawn out, like threads. You become both slower and faster, still and falling, endless and finite all at once. This is the paradox of black holes. They do not simply end things, they blur the meaning of ending. From far away, the event horizon is a perfect circle, smooth and calm. It looks like nothing more than a shadow, a patch of darkness against the stars, but you know what it hides. You know that within it, the geometry of spacetime folds inward, leading to a singularity, a point where meaning breaks, where numbers grow infinite, where known laws fail. It is part of you. It is the quiet return to the place where all things eventually go. Inward, back to gravity, back to silence, back to the universe's deepest rhythm. At the center of your galaxy, there is silence deeper than any night you have known. It does not shine, and yet it holds everything you see in place. Every star that rises in your sky, every swirl of gas that drifts between them, every orbit your planet makes, all are arranged by something you cannot see. The Milky Way is vast, a spiral of hundreds of billions of stars. But like a wheel, it turns around a hub. That hub is not a beacon of light, but a well of darkness. Sagittarius A*, the monster at the galaxy's core. It does not roar across the night. It waits, steady, patient, hidden behind veils of dust and distance. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you can feel its influence in the way stars dance near the center. They do not drift aimlessly. They move with speed, with urgency, as though pulled by an invisible partner. This is the mark of the black hole. Gravity so strong that even stars, huge and ancient, are compelled to bow. Sagittarius A** is not the largest of its kind. There are black holes billions of times more massive, but for you, it is intimate. It is your galaxy's anchor. It weighs about 4 million suns, gathered into a single point of darkness. Around it, stars orbit like fireflies around an unseen flame, their paths proving the presence of what cannot be directly observed. It is strange to think of a galaxy, something so luminous, so filled with starlight, being held together by absence. The arms of the Milky Way stretch outward in a spiral, and yet they remain tethered. The dark core holds them in place, balancing the whirling motion with gravity's unseen hand. Darkness shapes the beauty of the spiral, just as silence shapes the rhythm of a song. For decades, astronomers searched for what lay at the center. Radio signals traced its presence. Infrared light revealed stars racing in impossible orbits, circling something unseen. One by one, the pieces of evidence gathered until there was no doubt. At the heart of the Milky Way rests a black hole, not a metaphor, not a possibility, a certainty. And so you live in a galaxy built around a shadow. Your own sun, with its planets, orbits the center at a distance so vast it will take more than 200 million years to complete one revolution. Every breath you take is carried along on this slow galactic journey. You may not feel it, but you are in motion, circling the monster that waits in the dark. Yet, this monster is also a guardian. Without its gravity, the stars would not orbit. In harmony, the spiral would not hold its shape. The galaxy itself might not exist as you know it. The very thing that consumes is also the thing that holds. Devourer and yet anchor. Threat and yet structure. This is the paradox of Sagittarius A*. It is both destruction and order. Some stars may wander too close, torn apart by its tidal pull, their light stretched into streams that flare and vanish. But countless others remain in orbit, balanced by its gravity, their paths steady and predictable. The black hole does not erase the galaxy, it sculpts it, and in this there is something comforting, for even monsters can shape beauty, even darkness can give form to light, even absence can hold a universe together. Think of your own life. How often does something unseen shape your path? Gravity is not visible, and yet it guides your every step. Air cannot be held in your hands, and yet it fills your lungs. So too does Sagittarius A** guide the galaxy. It is the invisible truth, around which all else arranges itself. You may picture the stars near the center, orbiting so quickly they complete a revolution in mere years. Compared to your sun's slow journey, these stars live in constant haste, circling an unseen anchor at unimaginable speed. They are proof written in motion, proof that the core is real, proof that even in silence, gravity speaks. What you learn here is that the universe is not built on light alone. It is built also on shadow. Brightness without darkness has no frame. Motion without anchor has no shape. The galaxy is luminous, but its light is guided by absence, its motion steadied by something you cannot see. As you rest in this thought, your fear softens, because this monster at the center is not reaching for you. It does not chase you across the arms of the galaxy. It holds you instead, steady on your vast orbit. It is patient, silent, waiting, not a predator in motion, but a gravity that watches without end. And perhaps this is why it feels both terrifying and peaceful. Because to know that something so immense, so consuming, exists at the heart of your home is to know how small you are. But it is also to know that you are included in its reach, that you are part of its structure, that your galaxy would not exist without it. You orbit a monster. Yes, but you also orbit the very thing that gives your home its shape. This is the truth of Sagittarius A*. It is both cradle and grave. It consumes and it sustains. It is darkness and it is the sculptor of light. The Milky Way turns because of it, and you, without knowing, turn to dot. So you lie here, breathing slowly, and let this thought sink into you, that even your sky, filled with stars, is balanced by a shadow you cannot see. That your galaxy's beauty is the work of both light and dark, both presence and absence. That monsters too can hold the universe together. There are ways in which the universe reveals its power, not through sudden violence, but through stretching, through patience, through the slow unmaking of what once seemed whole. Near a black hole, this is what gravity does. It does not simply pull, it divides. It tugs more strongly on what is closer, less strongly on what is farther, creating a difference so vast that the body under its influence cannot stay intact. This is called tidal force, but you do not need the name. You only need the image. One side of you pulled faster, the other side lagging behind, stretched like soft clay, like taffy in invisible hands. The black hole does not grip you all at once. It pulls unevenly, insistently, until your shape cannot hold. You lengthen, you thin, you become thread-like. On Earth, you already know this effect in gentler form. The moon pulls the oceans toward itself, and the Earth's rotation carries the water forward. This difference in pull creates tides, the slow breathing of seas. It is gravity working unevenly, tugging here more than there, shaping the rhythm of waves. The same principle, magnified beyond measure, unfolds at the edge of a black hole. There, the tides do not shape oceans. They unmake matter as you draw. Nearer, the difference grows unbearable. Your feet, closer to the black hole, are pulled faster than your head. Atoms stretch, molecules strain, until bonds give way. It is not a tearing, but a thinning. You are drawn into a filament, a long stream of matter that narrows and narrows. Astronomers call this spaghettification, but to you it feels more like becoming a strand of light, a thread woven into the black hole's tapestry. Stars, too, suffer this fate. When a star wanders too close, its surface begins to ripple. One side falls harder, faster, while the other side lingers behind. It elongates, pulled into a ribbon of glowing gas. The ribbon coils, whirls, heats as it spirals inward, and for a moment, the destruction shines brighter than creation. The black hole feasts, but the universe watches in brilliance. This is how collapse can look like beauty. You might picture it as a kind of unraveling. A sweater pulled apart, thread by thread, a wave rolling forward until it breaks into foam. The difference here is scale, the relentless precision of gravity, the inevitability that no structure, not body, not star, not planet, can withstand, and yet there is still calm, because the process, while final, is not chaotic. It is ordered, predictable, governed by the geometry of spacetime itself. You do not shatter in randomness. You stretch with grace, as though the universe itself is pulling you into a new shape. Even in destruction, there is rhythm. You may ask, what happens to the atoms themselves? Do they survive this stretching? For a while, yes. Atoms hold tighter bonds than flesh or stone, but even they are not immune. The difference in gravity becomes so strong that not only molecules, but nuclei themselves may break. Particles stream apart, their energy flaring into light as they fall inward. This light, seen across space, tells astronomers what is happening. At the edges of these cosmic abysses, through destruction, black holes reveal their presence. It is haunting to think that beauty comes from this process. That light which shines across billions of years may be the final flare of something torn apart. But this, too, is the way of the universe. Energy does not vanish. Matter is not erased. It changes form, changes place, becomes new arrangement. Even in falling, even in unraveling, something is given back to the cosmos. When you rest in this thought, fear softens. You realize that even here, in the most terrifying of fates, there is a strange grace. To be stretched into a filament is to become part of the black hole's luminous halo, the glowing disk of matter that swirls before it disappears. For a moment, you shine more brightly than you ever did whole. It is destruction, yes, but it is also a last and luminous gift. The same happens to stars. One flare, one brilliant outpouring of energy, one streaming arc of light before silence. To watch it from afar is to witness a star's final song, long stretched and radiant. It is haunting, but it is also awe-inspiring. The black hole is a monster, but it is also an artist, shaping ribbons of light out of broken suns. You might wonder, if spaghettification is so final, why does it matter to you? Because it teaches you something about difference, about how uneven pulls shape everything you know. Tides on Earth, the orbit of planets, the stretching of galaxies by their clusters. Gravity is not uniform, it is a gradient, and gradients shape the world. They are how rivers flow, how winds move, how stars collapse. The black hole is only the most extreme version of a truth you live with every day, in your own body. 2. You know what it means to be stretched. Your thoughts stretch between past and future. Your heart stretches between hope and fear. And though it feels unbearable at times, this stretching is what shapes you. It is what gives depth to your being, just as tidal forces give shape to seas, and black holes give brilliance to galaxies. So when you think of spaghettification, do not think only of destruction. Think of transformation, matter becoming light, order becoming pattern, an ending becoming illumination. You to unravel in small ways every day. And in those unravelings, there is beauty, there is release, there is the possibility of becoming. Something else this chapter carries you deeper into the black hole's grasp. You feel the pull, the stretching, the inevitability, and though your mind recoils, your heart rests. Because even here, where endings are unavoidable, the universe speaks in softness. Even here, where bodies are thinned into threads, there is elegance. Even here, where stars are unmade, their light lingers to be seen across eternity. There are scales of existence that fit comfortably into your mind. The length of a room, the weight of your body, the distance of a journey, even the size of a planet, though immense, can be stretched into thought with effort. But then there are scales that dissolve you, scales that laugh at the reach of numbers, scales that humble language itself. TON 618 is one of these scales. You have already walked through the idea of stars collapsing, of black holes forming, of monsters anchoring galaxies. But here, you meet something that pushes even those thoughts to their breaking point. TON 618. A supermassive black hole, one of the largest ever discovered. It is not millions of suns heavy, as Sagittarius A** is. It is not even a few billion. It is estimated at more than 60 billion times the mass of the Sun. Try to hold that number, and it slips away. Try to imagine it, and it dissolves into silence. The hunger of TON 618 has carved itself into the cosmos for more than 10 billion years. It sits not nearby, not even in the neighborhood of galaxies you can easily picture, but in a distant quasar, so far that its light has traveled billions of years just to reach you. The photons that tell you of its presence began their journey before Earth even formed, before oceans gathered, before life stirred. They left across time itself, carrying the signature of a monster already ancient. To speak of TON 618 is to accept the collapse of scale. It is to step into a dimension of numbers that stretch beyond usefulness. Billions of suns compressed into a single darkness. Its event horizon, the boundary from which no light can return, is vast enough to swallow entire solar systems at once. If placed in the center of the Milky Way, it would extend past the orbit of Neptune. Not a planet, not a star, but an abyss the size of a system. Here, terror softens again into awe, because though the numbers threaten to overwhelm, they also reveal the creativity of the cosmos. This is not chaos, it is order writ large. The black hole grows by feeding, by swallowing gas, dust, and stars, and in the process, it shines. Around it, the accretion disk burns with a brilliance that can outshine entire galaxies. The paradox returns, the darkest thing in existence surrounded by the brightest light of all. The quasar that houses Ton 618 is one of the most luminous objects ever seen. Its energy floods across billions of light years, visible to telescopes on a small planet orbiting an ordinary star. Think of what that means, that a shadow so far away, so vast, can still write its name in light across half the universe. And you, small as you are, can see it. This is the humility the cosmos teaches. This is the balance between terror and wonder. When you try to imagine Ton 618, you might think of swallowing, of mouths too large to picture, of gravity too absolute to resist. But perhaps a better image is weight. Weight beyond measure. It is a weight that bends not only space, not only time, but thought itself. When you say 60 billion suns, your mind substitutes symbols for reality. But the truth is heavier than words. The truth is gravity made into a godlike presence, a silence larger than galaxies. You live in a universe where such things not only exist, but thrive. The cosmos permits them. The laws of physics do not forbid them. And so they sit, patient, swallowing, glowing, shaping the expansion of the universe itself. What you see in Ton 618 is not an exception. It is a possibility fully realized. The existence of such a black hole raises quiet questions. How did it grow so large, so fast, in the early universe? How did gravity gather so much mass, so much energy, in so short a time? Astronomers wonder if perhaps it began differently, not as a star collapsing, but as a direct collapse of gas in the young cosmos, feeding for eons, never satisfied. The details remain uncertain, but the truth remains steady. Ton 618 is there. It shines with hunger, and that hunger has lasted longer than the age of Earth. And what does this mean for you, lying here with these thoughts? It means you live in a universe where scale is elastic, where the unimaginable is also real. It means that your own fears, your own terrors, are small against the backdrop of 60 billion suns drawn into one. And strangely, that makes your fears softer, because in the shadow of Ton 618, everything else is light. You feel the calm of this perspective. Yes, it is terrifying to think of something so immense, so consuming, but it is also comforting, because the same laws that built this monster built you. The same physics that allows Ton 618 to exist also allows starlight, oceans, breath. You and it are not separate in essence. You are both arrangements of the same universe, born from the same rules. One small, one vast, but both inevitable. When you think of Ton 618, think also of time. The photons that reveal its quasar left when the universe was young. What you see is a ghost, a record of what it was. Perhaps it has grown larger since, perhaps it has changed, perhaps it has devoured. More, reshaped, more, glowed brighter still, but you cannot know. You can only see the past, carried across billions of years. This too is humbling. You do not see the universe as it is. You see it as it was, always slightly out of reach, always slightly behind. The terror of ton 618 is not that it threatens you directly. It is too far away. Its gravity does not pull at your body. The terror is its existence itself, that the universe can harbor something so enormous, so consuming, so patient, and yet the awe is the same, because existence itself is enough, because knowing it is there folds you deeper into the reality of the cosmos. Perhaps this is why black holes draw you into meditation. They remind you that limits are not where you think they are, that scale can grow beyond language, that silence can be louder than sound, that the universe can shape monsters, and monsters can shape beauty. You rest in the thought that ton 618 exists, and yet the stars still shine, galaxies still whirl, life still breathes on a small planet far away. The universe holds both terror and gentleness at once, the vast and the intimate, the infinite and the fragile, the monster at one end, and your quiet breath at the other. And so you drift further into stillness, because the scale of ton 618 is not meant to shake you from sleep. It is meant to remind you how vast sleep itself is, how vast rest itself can be. To close your eyes is to collapse your world into silence, much as a black hole collapses light. But in that silence, something beautiful persists. A calmness, an inevitability, a belonging. There are moments in the universe when darkness does not hide itself in shadow. Instead, it surrounds itself with light so radiant it rivals creation itself. A black hole, though invisible at its center, does not remain unseen. Its hunger gives it away. The matter that drifts to close clouds of gas, dust, shattered stars does not fall quietly. It circles first, caught in the whirlpool of gravity. It spirals faster and faster, drawn inward by irresistible pull. And as it spirals, it heats. Friction presses particles against each other. Atoms collide, energy bursts forth. The disk that forms around the black hole blazes with light, brighter than galaxies, brighter than the combined glow of billions of stars.